online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. I'm Colin and Bob is socially distanced.
I am indeed, yes. Very good evening to you. Welcome along to the show where we will reflect on Monday's game against Tottenham Hotspur and look ahead to Saturday's fixture at Brentford.
And we'll hear from 90 striker Kim Casey as well, who, in his day, played and scored in a pre-season friendly against Tottenham.
We'll also be hearing from the head of media, Matt Cecil, about some of the events that took place before the game against Spurs. Quite exciting, clearly, to have lots of the world's media descend on Adams Park, but a little bit of a headache for Matt.
It's been quite a week, actually, hasn't it? Because it sort of started off, well, going back to last week, really, because we had the COVID, then we had the snow, then we had an FA Cup fourth round tie, then we had a practice game. Not much happened yesterday in comparison, but today's been fairly quiet, although you got to speak to Gareth earlier on today.
I did, yes. And they revealed that the Norwich game has also been selected for TV.
Also exciting.
Yeah, I know. Sunday the 28th of Feb at 12 noon.
On the telly again.
Yes. More excitement for Matt.
So he'll have just got over it and then it'll be time to do it all over again.
Exactly. You can imagine him like, oh no, they've gone on selected the Norwich game as well.
But it seems strange, isn't it? I think I read that this Saturday will be their first league game in 4 weeks.
Yes, it has been a while. We haven't played on a Saturday for quite a while now. And we keep going on about this, but, we're still at the halfway point of the season. We seem to have been saying that since about New Year.
It's quite a big halfway point, isn't it?
Yes, and it's getting bigger, partly because we are now at last finally managing to assemble a few games in hand, which possibly might be crucial. But also it's getting a little bit worrying in that other teams keep winning that are just sort of like above us.
You keep looking at those points gaps, don't you think they don't want to be too cut adrift?
Indeed, and so to see that Rotherham beat Middlesbrough 3-0 last night.
How very dare they?
Cheers, Neil Warnock. That wasn't exactly what we wanted.
No. But again, it sounds like a cliche, but you just need to put a small run of results together and things look very different.
And that's exactly the thing. And I think we all know, actually, and the whole world will know now, actually, after watching on Monday, that actually Wycombe are playing very, very well at the moment. We just need to start stringing those results together. And in some ways, it's such a shame that actually we've had all of these postponements, the QPR game, the Sheffield Wednesday game, because the Preston game where we won 4-1 really felt like the beginning of something. It really felt like actually suddenly we'd found our feet, we were in the groove, and the fact that then everything obviously had to come to a grinding halt was a great shame. But let's hope that we can pick it up again. Obviously we've got Brentford, and then we've got some pretty big games coming up with those teams that are in and around the relegation zone, as they say.
I should imagine Monday night's performance would have given all the players such a boost of confidence, though.
Yeah, definitely. And you can just imagine so many people watching that thinking, blimey, is this the side that are bottom of the championship? We looked more like a Burnley or a Brighton, holding and frustrating Spurs. And the fact that we managed to hang on for 85 minutes and they had to bring on their big guns, said it all, really.
And such a great start to the cup tie as well.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it? You slightly thought, oh, goodness me. Gareth Bale looks quite dangerous, but straight away we were doing the same to Spurs. We were then attacking them, and Gareth very much said that before the game, that actually, we're not just going to sit back. We're not going to be one of these teams that plays 11 men behind the ball, and tries to frustrate Spurs that way. No, we're going to take the game to them, and we certainly did.
Because Gareth Bale and Eric Lamela, I think they had quite a few shots, not necessarily on target, but I was worried for the safety of the new digital advertising boards. But
I like the fact that you're concerned about the advertising boards.
They're new, aren't they? Can't go. They're probably expensive.
Yeah, you can imagine Pete Couhig sitting there, particularly when they're showing the thing about Louisiana, and Gareth Bale's thumping a ball into them, saying, "No, stop!"
Head in hands.
Those are expensive.
Look after our stuff.
Yeah, please don't. But yes, just slightly looking ahead for a moment. After Brentford, it's Birmingham at home, Nottingham Forest at home, Sheffield Wednesday away, and clearly all of those are slightly really become must-win games, I think.
Because February's really busy, isn't it?
It is. Suddenly, whereas actually the second half of the season very much looked like it was a little bit more relaxed in terms of fixtures, and we seem to be playing Saturdays with the occasional midweek fixture thrown in. Suddenly, because of the COVID situation, both for ourselves and at Sheffield Wednesday, it's now Saturday, Tuesday again, pretty much all the way through. Just looking at it, really, until the next international break. And that's not until the final game before the international break is away to Coventry on the 20th of March. So it's going to be a bit of a slog again.
Because you find yourself, don't you, looking at teams who are playing coming up and thinking, well, they're not doing so well lately, perhaps it's a good time to be playing them. We've got Birmingham quite soon, and they're very up and down, aren't they?
Yeah, indeed. And obviously Birmingham, that's one of the games that we've won so far. That was the away victory where we beat them 2-1. So definitely, that has got to be seen. I think if we are to stay in the division, that's got to be seen surely as a must win, particularly the fact that we're playing them at home. Nottingham Forest, it was a shame that we lost to them because clearly they weren't doing particularly well at the time. And again, still aren't doing very well for considering that they are such a big team. So again, I would say that really that's looking like a must-win as well.
And you've got to hope as well that QPR and Sheffield Wednesday are both not doing so well when the rearranged fixtures come around.
Yeah, completely. It's having a postponement. Sometimes it can work in your favour. Sometimes, clearly, it's completely the other way. The away match against Queen's Park Rangers now on the 9th of March. So again, clearly, that's beginning to get towards the end of the season. Things will be a little bit clearer then, I think, with regards to what actually teams need to do to avoid relegation. But at the same time, that's why teams at the bottom are always harder to play towards the end, because clearly once you know what you've got to do, it does sort of focus the mind a little bit more, far more than than if you're playing a team that ends up, say, being relegated in August. They're clearly not trying quite as hard then as they might be at the end of April. So back to Monday night, and who, or perhaps what, particularly impressed you? So on Monday night, really, the entire team, I without wishing to do what Gareth normally does, but I think it's quite hard to sort of like, say anybody, because they all put in a shift. I thought it was a great shame for Joe Jacobson, who obviously, he is the main Spurs fan in the team. He's the one who apparently had Spurs wallpaper when he was growing up. And was also playing against Gareth Bale, and he'd been in some of the same teams as Gareth Bale, as a youth player. And so I thought that, that was really, really sad that he had to come off. But yeah, everybody did so well. I think we really do look like we have solved the Bayo problem of, well, if Bayo's not playing, who do we pick? Uchi and Admiral once again looked really, really good. In defence, we looked pretty solid as well, which, considering we're saying it was against Spurs, is quite impressive.
Oh, definitely. And you could tell that the manager was really pleased afterwards, despite the result, slightly dejected, I guess, because, they'd held Tottenham for such a long period. But Gareth spoke to reporter Jamie Weir after the game.
A little bit deflated, but obviously it was a tough last 5 minutes. I think that's probably reflects the scoreline, and then the other 85 minutes reflects a 2-1 scoreline, which I'm really proud of. The boys gave everything. I think they're a little bit tired at the end. We've only trained one day in the last 8, COVID, and because of the snow yesterday, so proud of them. Missed the fans, when that 4th goal went in, instead of thinking about why it went in, I thought, God, we missed the fans tonight. I really did, because I thought the fans would give us that energy not to let almost like a reserve game at the end. And
obviously, in these very strange times, you probably can't have a glass of wine with Jose at the game tonight, but does he have an open invitation to any Cold-Blooded Hearts gig in the future?
Absolutely. He said he might not be sing, but I bet he can play a mean time. No, he's a really, really top guy and a great manager, and he's given me a lot of respect tonight, and I'm humbled by managing along on the same pitch as Jose Mourinho. I think it's a fantastic day for me. I'm a football manager. There's so many people worse off than me, so that's a real humbling experience. And I'm hoping we also gained a few fans, because we didn't lie down. We went at Tottenham. We had a goal. Just too strong at the end for us.
I think that's what really stood out, wasn't it? How well the players did. I don't know about you as well, but I've got a strange mental image of Jose Mourinho in some sort of mariachi band now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that clip just goes to show the joys of Zoom press conferences as well. You might imagine that actually when journalists are speaking to football managers, that they completely make sure that their mics are muted and stuff like that. I can tell you that really doesn't happen at all. But yeah, I mean, my main image actually of Jose was of him looking really fed up on the touchline in a, come on, we should be doing much better than this, and clearly looking quite concerned as well. Thinking, well, obviously he wasn't going to want it to go into extra time. I don't think Gareth probably did either. But that was the bit that really stood out for me, was that, well, this is great. We've got one of the best managers in the world, and he's not sitting there smiling. He's for 85 minutes he was looking pretty much daggers at his team.
I think it was quite a compliment as well, because he certainly felt that going into the game that it would be quite a hard contest, and Wycombe would make things difficult for them.
I knew that the game was going to be difficult. We start preparing the game by showing the players what they did a few years ago at White Hart Lane, and 6 of these players plus the manager, they are still in the team. So that, I think, was a good start. And then we prepared the game knowing that could be hard, and it was. It's not easy to handle that style of play. If you don't score goals, they stay in the game, and was great for us that we scored minute 85, because that gave us the possibility of not to play the extra time, which would not be good for us, and of course not good for them too. I think the attitude of the team was very professional, and this is the kind of game that even if we lose the game because we missed chances and they score in the last minute, let's say that, I wouldn't be sad, because very professional performance.
Because if you look at the game afterwards and you see the result 4-1, you think, oh yeah, Premier League side beat Championship strugglers 4-1, but that doesn't tell the story at all, does it?
At all, and it was a very harsh scoreline. 2-1 would have been fair enough, but yeah, 4-1 was particularly harsh. I think that another huge compliment that Jose played was the fact that he showed his team the 4-3 game from 4 years ago. I very much like the fact that actually, both sets of teams happened to see that before the game was played.
No, definitely works well as inspiration, but also information as well for an opposing team to say, this is what it'll be like.
Yeah, and I assume he was probably very much saying, well, look, this was them in League 2, and just bear in mind that they're now in the Championship, so, you are going to have to up your game. This isn't going to be us facing Marine again.
No, Mourinho, not Marine.
No, indeed.
I'm sure that joke's already been made.
I was going to say, I'm sure that was in some newspaper up in Manchester somewhere.
As Bob mentioned, we also caught up with Matt Cecil, who's the head of media at the club, to find out a bit more about what the experience was like for everyone connected with the team.
It was a great occasion. We caveat all these with, wouldn't it have been far more wonderful for the fans to be there? And of course, that's the one regret we have about this whole season, is that those that are able to enjoy it in person are very few and far between. But I think as soon as the draw was made, it kind of lit a fire in all of us, that kind of FA Cup romantic spark that just says, we know the league is important, and we know that the Championship and survival in the Championship is key for the club to really kind of build on the foundations that it's laid over the past few years. But this was a nice distraction, if you like, from that kind of ongoing battle. A lot of exposure, a lot of interest, obviously, around the game, and for the players as well. Many of them early on in their careers, haven't played in a game of such stature against such opposition before, and it was one for them to look forward to. So, of course, we had the hiccup in the week beforehand with the COVID outbreak, which never really threatened this game, but just hampered some of the preparations, maybe. And I guess in hindsight, when you look back, the team tailed off, obviously, in the last few minutes when Spurs came on strong, and perhaps some of those preparations being hampered could have had an impact. But overall, I think we will look back at the day that Tottenham Hotspur came to Adams Park with Jose Mourinho in charge, and really had to bring on the big guns to break us down and to get the victory. So a proud night for everyone concerned. A lot of hard work that went into it on and off the pitch, and now we just sort of put that behind us and look forward to the second half of the Championship season.
So pleasing with the way the tie started, though, and obviously scoring first must have been so reminiscent of 2017.
Yeah, absolutely. It was I think Spurs expected it. They expected Wycombe to come out and have a go. It's what Gareth Ainsworth does in cup ties. It's what we tried to do against Villa a few years ago. and had some good early chances in the first half of that game. Gareth's a manager who likes to be bold. He likes to go on the attack rather than try and soak it up and sit back. And to score that first goal was great. And Fred, obviously he was the star of the playoff semi-final against Fleetwood back in July. He's had a quieter first half of the season than he might have liked, but he'd scored against Preston and found himself in the right place at the right time to keep his composure and tuck that one away. And, who knows, it could have been a different story had we been able to hold on till half-time and keep that 1-0. But Spurs came on strong, a good ball into the box for the equaliser, and in the second half, Spurs obviously came on stronger and got the win in the end. But it was an amazing feeling around the place. Again, it was a muted celebration from those that were there. But the boys on the pitch certainly enjoyed it. I think the TV picture showed Gareth keeping a calm exterior, but I'm sure inside his heart was going a little bit, and a dream of another cup upset. But a great moment, great for Fred. And Wycombe Wanderers held the lead again against Tottenham Hotspur, but the Spurs came roaring back.
It just seemed to be such a great advert for both the team, the club, and also the town as well.
Yeah, I think these are our occasions in the spotlight. There are 92 professional clubs across the leagues, and obviously more in non-league, and the Premier League grabs the exposure. And certainly in this league, we know that there are clubs with far more interest that surround them because of the players. You've got Wayne Rooney managing at Derby, and Wycombe Wanderers won't often be talked about. So when our opportunity in the spotlight comes, we want to grab it with both hands. And for us, that meant just getting as much media coverage as we could, getting as many sponsors engaged, and kind of benefiting from the exposure that would come with it as well. But at the same time, it's not publicity for publicity's sake. We want to show off the values of the club, the community spirit, the warm-hearted kind of characters that you see all around the place, from the manager, from the chairman, to the staff, all around the place. That's what we want the world to see is who we are, the humility that follows us around, the respect that we show to our opposition, and of course the relationship we have with our supporters, even though they're not in the ground. So all of those things kind of culminated over the past couple of weeks. We've received a lot of compliments from Tottenham as a club and from their supporters, from the media and the visitors that were there on the day. And I think generally, it's another opportunity where Wycombe Wanderers had their 15 minutes of fame, and the football world that were watching have said, you know what, we quite like Wycombe. They seem a decent club. So, let's hope it's not long until the next opportunity comes around for us to do that again.
It's fascinating in a way, isn't it? Because obviously locally, we support the club and watch the team, week in, week out. But you hear about sort of the national press, or sort of, is this like suddenly discovered there's this manager who's a rock singer, and there's got this hugely strong player in Bayo, and you've got someone who scores from corners in JJ, and it's like, yes, we know all this, but it's fantastic. Yeah. They're all just kind of learning about it. Yeah,
it does make me chuckle. The phone rings a lot more before these kind of occasions, and naturally the media want to speak to the manager because they know he wears a leather jacket and has long hair and drives a Mustang. And you do get quite a bit of repetition with that when you're a Wycombe fan, because you read and hear about it quite a lot, but for them I suppose it's something different. Akinfenwa is the number one target on their hit list of interviews. And you know what, to a lot of them I say, look, he's unavailable, who else would you like to speak to? And some of them struggle to name another Wycombe player. That's part of everybody's challenge here, I think, is to get Wycombe Wanderers known for more than its leather-clad manager and, larger-than-life striker. Everybody else has a personality and a character and deserves their moment in the spotlight. So it was nice to see national media coverage on Joe Jacobson, Matt Bloomfield, Ryan Alsop was in the papers, Scott Cashkett, and they enjoy the coverage. They enjoy being talked about, and they enjoy the fact that there are people interested in speaking to them. So, yeah, Wycombe Wanderers will be synonymous, I'm sure, with Gareth and with Bayo, but there are plenty more characters around, and it was nice to shine a light on those as well.
Definitely, and you must be so pleased. You sort of touched on earlier how the club has coped, if that's the right word, with responding from the COVID outbreak, and then having to prepare with very little time for this FA Cup run, and now obviously with the focus back on the sort of league campaign and survival. Yeah,
it's obviously been a stop-start season in many ways, of having fans in the ground and not having them, and operationally as well. We are on the fly week by week of kind of playing by the rules and seeing what we can do. So when we were placed back into lockdown, Tier 4, wasn't it, around Christmas, and then into a national lockdown at the start of January, all the staff then had to go back to their homes and trying to pull these things together when the cup draw came out and it was against Tottenham. There was so much to work on, and yet the club was trying really, really hard to stick to the protocols, and most of the staff were working at home. The stadium remained open for the vaccination suite, which has gone really, really well. That's been a big success. And of course for the players, with the regular testing, it just means that one or two positives can spread like wildfire when you've got a group of players that train together. Despite the strictest protocols, which the club have been adhering to with the separate arrival times, the doors being wide open at the gym, which makes it freezing, but the boys are travelling to train indoors in masks, which is a horrible experience when you're putting in a workout and you can't breathe properly through the masks, but those are the protocols. Club did everything it could to stave that off, but it just kind of mounted up and caused the postponement of the QPR game. And by the time the team returned to training and got into that game, it'd been 16 days between the two games. And as I say, that may have had an impact, but we're not using that as an excuse. It was just a pat on the back, really, of the medical staff for acting quick enough to stop a much bigger outbreak, and to all the operational staff from the stadium to the commercial, that despite the challenges of COVID and the separation and having to work from home, put on a really good show, I thought.
And I think that's something else that really stood out about Monday as well. Watching the game thinking, if only the fans were there, this would have been fantastic, attacking the goal, having, the fans' reaction as well. But it was also really nice to see Adams Park on the telly for people that might not have seen, the improvements to the ground. Yeah,
a lot of work has gone in. It was one of the things Rob Couhig really wanted to do when he came to see the place. He acknowledged the fact that it was a little tired, and it has been tired because the club hasn't been able to invest in the stadium facilities and the general infrastructure. So gradually there have been the improvements. We saw the Chairboys Village last season, which was a big hit. And certainly inside the stadium, the new dugouts, the floodlights, the media facilities, some of them were required to meet championship standards. Some of them were just a result of everybody's kind of desire to improve the place and have it aesthetically pleasing. The LED advertising boards have been a big revenue spinner for the club, and it was great to have a lot of new advertisers on board there on Monday night. Big exposure for them. As you say, it would have been lovely to have every seat filled. We were telling BT Sport when they were building all their scaffolds, you're fine to stick a studio there, but trust me, if we were selling tickets, you wouldn't be taking up our precious seats, because we would want 9,500 loud and proud supporters inside the stadium, making as much noise as they could. And in their absence, we had to make what money we could by draping a few advertising banners over some of the seats and really grabbing every opportunity to make this a prestigious but also a money-spending fixture as much as we could.
Do you get the impression that supporters might get to the ground this season, or is it still too early to say, really?
There's no indication of anything, is there, really, post-lockdown at the moment? I think the Prime Minister was talking about this potential 6-week lockdown up until half-term in February. On a sporting level, it seems to have gone all quiet. We had fans in against Stoke, we had more fans in against Coventry. I remember we were looking to go to Bristol City, weren't we, on Boxing Day, and they were preparing for fans, and just before Christmas that all got put on hold. So there's no suggestion of it at the moment, and I guess it's depending on the success of the vaccination programme across the country. We really hope so, but more than anything, Gareth's desire and the team's desire is that we have another shot at the Championship next season, where hopefully the fans get a full year of it and being able to enjoy it. But no, for now, the club is just so grateful of the patience, the understanding of the supporters, many of whom cost up money at the start of the season for season tickets, probably in the expectation they might miss a few games, but certainly not 21 or 22 of them, which is looking like it might be the case. So it's been a real shame this season that the fans haven't been able to be part of it, and that's why everybody here is desperate to make sure that this season isn't our only one in the Championship, because we worked so hard to get here, and we want that collective effort to be rewarded with year 2, year 3, year 4 in the Championship, and year 5 in the Premier League. Why not? A boy can dream. So let's see how we go. But hopefully, there's a rapid programme on the vaccination sort of network across the country, and if we can get fans back in the ground, we will be ready as soon as the Prime Minister gives the go-ahead. We'll be ready straight away to welcome them back.
That's fantastic. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries at all. Thanks, Colin. Take care.
That was something that really stood out on Monday as well. I kept thinking, and I'm sure you did as well, if only there were supporters here to have seen this and not only to sort of witness the occasion, but as Gareth mentioned, just to really sort of spur the team on towards the end.
I mean, BT Sport kept having this footage from a drone. I don't know whether it was live or whether they'd taken it before the game, but you did just think, I mean, the ground still looked stunning, all lit up, but the fact that it was empty and you couldn't help think, oh wow, that would look so amazing with all the fans there, because definitely, that's a game that we would have sold out all 10,000 tickets. Adams Park hasn't been at capacity for many games in its entire history. That would have been one of those. And it would have been such a fantastic atmosphere, the fact that it was being played at night as well. And I think Gareth probably is right that actually it would have affected the scoreline as well, actually, if fans had been there. I think another point with regards to what Matt was saying and just about the 16-day gap and the fact that really they only managed to train once is it was an incredible result considering all of those things. Had you said before the game, they've only trained once, they've had 16 days off, you probably would have thought, oh goodness me, Spurs are going to score 6 or 7 here. It ended up being 4-1, but it wasn't a 4-1 game, it was a 2-1 game, and didn't we do fantastically well considering all of the disruption that the team had in the preparation?
Oh, definitely. I think any time to score first against Tottenham and to hold them for that amount of time in the game level is a fantastic achievement. Still to come on the next part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from 90s striker Kim Casey.
Love music, love talk, love Wycombe Sound.
Coming up in a few moments' time, we'll hear from Kim Casey, 90s striker. I just want to say a big hello, though, to Pete Killig, who tweeted this week, I think it was yesterday, in fact, that he had Wycombe Sound on in the car. We must work on the big hello a bit better. And he had Staying Alive on, and he tweeted that when Wycombe Sound played the right song at just the right time, and he was sort of touring the car park with Adams Park with Staying Alive on. It was very good.
And we all know what's going on in the car park at the minute to hopefully ensure that everyone stays alive.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that was the sort of point. But it was fantastic to be reminded and get to see, that.
Yes. No, we appreciated that, Pete. Thank you very much.
And of course, Pete has been a regular guest on the show, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to him much more between now and the end of the season. Also been catching up with Kim Casey, of course, 90s striker, fantastic achievement at the club, although only was with us for 2 seasons, but did brilliantly well. Played, of course, in some very memorable games, and he's been speaking to us about how he came to be a Wanderer.
It is, in essence, a club that I'd always admired from afar. I think our manager at Kidderminster, Graham Ulmer, mentioned it to Martin that, I could be interested when, they were talking. And I think that's how it came around.
And it must have been a club you're aware of. I know it's certainly a side you scored against quite a lot when you were at Kidderminster and also Cheltenham as well.
Yeah, it was. And, don't get me wrong, as an opposition player, you see the style of the football that teams play, and you see the fan base that clubs have. And I always liked Lakes Park. For whatever reason, it just had a good omen for me. So I loved playing at Wycombe and really enjoyed it. I remember some cracking games though, high-scoring games, and it was just really entertaining football. And of course, being a striker, that's what I enjoyed. So when I got the call, possibility of talking with a gaffer, then obviously I was really excited about that.
And what was it that really attracted you to want to come and play for the club?
If I'm honest, I really don't know, other than the gaffer's motivation to sign you. He wanted certain things. In our discussions, I thought that I could do that, and he convinced me to sign for the club. His passion for football, his knowledge for football, his background is obviously, second to none at the time, and that's how it proved to be. So it proved to me to be a fantastic move.
And did it feel like it was a real kind of special time around the time you joined as well?
Well, I was quite fearful when I came in because I was one of the older ones, and there were so many good players in the dressing room, and I thought, I'm going to have a lot of difficulty getting in the team here. So I really have to, make my position count, and if I get an opportunity, make sure I score goals or contribute. But having a good grounding at Kidderminster and Graham helped me. And, the gaffer installed a lot of confidence in you. But it was a good club to be at. But make no bones about it, my memory is that when we looked around the dressing room, we had winners, and that means trophies. Unfortunately, at the end of my second year, we won the double. So that was, not long in fruition. But something that I'm passionate about is winning trophies. And when the gaffer spoke, I knew that all the players were on the same wavelength as him, and I just had to buy into that too.
I remember around the time you were at the club, it was the sort of time that I was watching quite regularly with friends from school and college around that sort of time, and that really was a great group of players that you had at that time.
It was. So, I've been reflecting since you called, and without doubt, I've been really, really lucky in my career to play for some pretty good teams, but I must admit, man for man, the strength of the whole squad and the leadership, for my mind, was without doubt the best team that I played for. Even though it was a short time. I loved my other clubs, and the length of time I was at Kidderminster, obviously got a very strong affinity there. But when you actually achieve things and you do it in a relatively short period of time, because we actually did the same at Leamington, and we won the treble within a period of 12 months. And we've got a young side there, and we actually still keep in contact now. So a bit like the Wycombe Wanderers, ex-players association. It's fantastic when you build relationships like that. You actually put gongs or put trophies on the table, which means, you were successful, or that everyone was successful, including the fan base. So it's a special time.
Because I guess you probably don't realise it at the time, and as you say, it's only since reflecting, but what it means to supporters who come and watch you kind of each week, and as you say, the year you did the double, and to get such success at that level.
Yeah, I was really appreciative of all the support that I had personally. 5,000 fans every week at home, it's just incredible. The noise and the spirit was fantastic. It spurred the team on. But I'll give you one brief example of, I was injured for quite a while with a dislocated shoulder. I did it in the West Brom game at home in the FA Cup, and I was out for a little while. And a woman just, all I was doing was standing, watching the game, because obviously I was injured. And a woman came up to me and just gave me a photograph. And it was a photograph that she took a couple of weeks before, had it printed, and it was quite emotional. It was my son. It's one of the best pictures I ever had. So all the crowd in the background, I didn't even know her from Adam. She just come up, gave me the photograph. It's brilliant. It's just such a family club.
Wow, that's really special. And are there any other sort of games and matches and particular occasions that especially stand out during your time?
I can't actually say specific games. Obviously, extremely disappointed with the West Brom game that I couldn't get involved after that. And really, right at the end, because of the injury, the gaffer had to choose a strong side in the final against Runcorn, which I didn't start. So those are my disappointments. But I think every single game that I played for Wycombe I loved, because we had an attacking style, we had a winning style. And your contribution was valued by the gaffer, and it was valued by your mates. And when we used to look around at the dressing room, you just knew that there's no way we're going to lose this game. The only thing we're going to do is absolute minimum is draw. But otherwise, let's get on and win things, which we did.
Does it feel like a long time ago? Because obviously it will be 30 years this year that you signed.
Yes, it is a very long time. You think of the players in there and what they've achieved, like Steve Guppy, for example, what he went on to achieve. But David Carroll, Chris, Scotty up top, the midfielders, Tomo and Stapleton, Rhino. It's just a fantastic side, really. Jason Cousins right back, Heidi in goal. It was unbelievable for me. One of the best goalkeepers I've played with, if not the, just purely on presence. But some passionate people about winning, that's something that I've been lucky enough to buy into in a number of clubs that I've played for. But certainly the fan base was brilliant as well. The away support was tremendous. So, even though it's 2 years, some things it feels like yesterday.
And it must feel like during that period as well, it was such those names that you mentioned, it was such a core of that team, it didn't really change that much.
No, that's right. It's one of our strengths, actually, that everybody trained hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was probably one of the worst trainers. Right at the pre-season was not my thing. I mean, I'd been one of the older players, but I was fine over a short distance, but certainly not long distance. And, at Kidderminster, sometimes we went up hills and went round lakes. And I said to the gaffer once, the manager there, I said, has our pitch changed? If we got a lake in the middle of our pitch, or, what's going on? Why do we need to do all this running? It's absolutely pointless. But the gaffer, Aunt Martinoni, basically gave me extra time to do the runs. So he realised that it wasn't my strength. But then when I was in a group with Chris, he'd be kicking my backside to make sure that I was in the time so that we didn't have to do another run. So it's simple memories like that just last with you forever.
It's really nice, isn't it? You have those, as you say, kind of stories that are only kind of special to you and that particular group.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we still meet up occasionally. We've got the, your typical WhatsApp group, and some of the comments on there, the banter is just fantastic. I mean, Scotty and Heidi stick out for me as well as the skip. But, the self-confidence of Scotty as a player was absolutely incredible. I don't think, if you cut him in half, he just self-belief, and it rubs off on all the other players. And the banter with Heidi and the guys and Chris is just tremendous. I came down for a game of golf last year in the golf tournament for the ex-players, and just played with Rhino and Chris, and it just flew by. It's absolutely hilarious. It's one of the funniest games of golf I've ever had. It's just great.
And as you say, it's so nice that you have that sort of bond with the Ex-Players Association. You can all come together and share different stories from different generations as well.
Yeah, there's lots of decades. I think it's one of the strongest in the UK. From what I mean, it was 180 at the dinner last year, I think. So it's fabulous. All the work that the guys put in, who organised that, it's just Hutch and all the guys are just fantastic. Really proud, and lost a really good friend with John Reardon this year. What a guy he was. Made me feel the most welcome I've ever felt at any club.
Because it's so nice to hear those stories, isn't it, about, there are so many individuals that have been associated with the club and at the club for so long with so many different roles, and some of them that so many people know as well.
Yeah. But it was the backroom stuff as well. I remember how strong the team was all over. Not just the gaffer, he needed support, and he delegated stuff, and his strength was motivation before the game, and you felt 7 foot tall, absolutely invincible, no way that anybody would lose a game, at our place. We wouldn't lose. But it's important that it's everyone, and that includes the fans. Without them, you wouldn't have anything. And they were fantastic, and great memories.
It must be so pleasing for you to see them in the Championship now.
I wish that I could come down and watch the games. I've watched every game on Sky, obviously, but I'm so proud. And on our WhatsApp group, all the comments, fantastic. Really great to see them. And Gareth and his team doing a fantastic job, way above the station, in my opinion, for such a club. But fingers crossed, they'll stay there.
So for people that don't know, tell us a bit about what you've been doing since your time at Wycombe.
From a coach's point of view, I've just been coaching locally, won trophies with Moor Green, with Redditch, with Solihull United. But from a business role, I'm 60 in March. Seems to have gone quick. So essentially, I've not the full-time job on the head, which was an insurance guy for many, many years. And I'm now working part-time for a firm called Digital Innovators, who are what I'm teaching is, if you're a student between 16 and 24 and you want to get into employment, you go to college, you get, you study for your qualifications, which are all technical. But then you've got your soft skills, you've got your communication, building confidence, problem solving, leadership, teamwork, all those, that's what we do online. So as we speak today, I'm teaching online, but not full time, just half a week. But the business just won the Solihull Business of the Year 2020, which again, a little trophy, which means that you must be doing something right. It's a fantastic little company, and I really love it. Just gets people employed, and it's just doing business coaching, football coaching, just getting the best out of other people. Great feeling.
No, it sounds really rewarding, and I guess, as you say, since we spoke, you must be so nice to be able to reflect on what you achieved in your time as a player and your time at Wycombe for those couple of years as well.
Yeah, they had a special time. I spent 9 years at Kidderminster, very special time. Equally special at Wycombe, even though it was 2 years. Fantastic groups of players. Because it's easy just to pass through different clubs, not win things, not have the camaraderie, not have the fan base. But, with the clubs that I mentioned there specifically, they stand out for me as two of the best clubs that I played for by a mile.
And as a striker, I must have been so pleased with your goal tally as well.
I was disappointed at Wycombe, actually. I didn't get so many. I probably, I don't know, my reputation was, I didn't pass a lot. I knew my role at Wycombe crystal clear. The gaffer really made it easy for me in his conversations with me on one-to-ones. That's what he was pretty good at. He shortened the pitch for me, just, this is what I want you to do. And when you've got players like Gups and David Carroll on each wing, you just get in the box. You don't have a great deal to do, to be fair. They make it all that easy. And Scotty was a perfect foil. He's very lost in the air, won those things. And he went one post, I went the other. And with them two on each wing, it was a pretty easy job for me. But so I was disappointed that I didn't get double what I did at Wycombe. But I was proud over the career because I was very lucky.
Oh, it's been fantastic to reminisce with you. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Really, really enjoyed it. Great memories. Thank you.
Fantastic to hear from Kim Casey. Colin, I would imagine probably brought back some memories for you.
Oh, absolutely, because they all those players that he mentioned, and obviously we spoke to Crease as well, and Scotty as well. That whole team with Jason Cousins and all of them really, Keith Ryan, and they were week in week out. You'd go and watch them, Martin O'Neill managing them, and it just felt like at that time, obviously we've spoken before on the show about how many different sort of generations and sort of groups, if you like, of teams there seem to be, and they all have their really special periods. But that, I suppose, when you're kind of the age that I was then, and really kind of enjoying going to see games, not that I don't now, but but you kind of remember, don't you, in your sort of those years, when there was a group of us that went, and I think I was sort of school age or college age around that time, and it was really brilliant on a Saturday to go and even if they didn't play well or they didn't win or whatever, there was always it's that sort of, you felt like community, and you'd see the same people. It's probably the same for people who go today. Well, not today, obviously, but for their vaccination. But it's you again. But no, it was a fantastic sort of period, and obviously going to Wembley as well, as Kim said, against Runcorn, and it was a fantastic time.
And I think that's why, actually, what we're going through at the moment as a club, and I'm not talking about the current situation, but I mean the fact, that we've got Gareth, and the fact that we've had so much success, really, over the past few years. I think when you have that amazing success, particularly when you're quite a young fan or a teenage fan, that it's a really, really formative time, and you look back on it always, whatever's happening with your football club, and you think, wow, that was amazing, and will we ever go through that again? And I think what's fantastic at the moment is that actually we are going through one of those periods, one of those really amazing times where you think of all of the fantastic games that we've had, the trip to Wembley, when we lost to Southend, but that was still an amazing season. Then going up the game at Chesterfield, and then obviously last year the playoffs, obviously beating Oxford at Wembley. Now the fact that we're in the Championship, the Spurs Spurs FA Cup game at White Hart Lane. There are so many things actually that you can look back on and think, wow, this is amazing. And it's fantastic that actually it's happening again, that we are having that Martin O'Neill period again, only this time led by Gareth Ainsworth.
And especially when you compare it to, the comparatively recent, history of the club being in such financial difficulties, and Gareth always talks about the Torquay game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and the club, I definitely felt, it went through a few difficult years. When Tony Adams came in and things, it didn't necessarily feel, quite like Wycombe Wanderers. And the fact that we now have such a safe pair of hands as Gareth in charge, the fact that we have a management team who completely clearly back him. And I'm talking about management of the actual club rather than of the team. You can imagine so many other clubs where, the team bottom of the Championship will be looking to get rid of their manager, and you think, well, no, Gareth is definitely the safest manager probably in the division at the moment.
Still to come, we'll hear from the safest manager in the division at the moment. Looking ahead to the Brentford game here at Wycombe Sound.
Love music, love talk, love Wycombe Sound.
Building up to a league game, which is something we've not done for a bit. Saturday will be the first league game in 4 weeks.
Yeah, it will, which is a bit of a surprising stat, particularly in a season where you imagine that actually we're going to have to cram all of the fixtures in. But indeed, we find ourselves returning to the Brentford Community Stadium this Saturday. Of course, the second time that we have been there, because we played them in the very first game in the League Cup, where, of course, we lost on penalties. And then we managed to hold them in the league game at Adams Park earlier on this season, 0-0, which is a very good result considering how well Brentford have done this season.
I was going to say, you can't help look at them and think what an organised team they are, and especially with their manager as well, how well he organises them.
Clearly, we all know where they want to be. They are now knocking on the door of the Premier League with their new stadium in particular. The fact that they've got Thomas Frank, who seems like a very, very good manager who knows exactly what he's doing. They are a team that definitely doesn't want to be in this division and clearly have aspirations to go up into the Premier League.
Speaking of which, let's hear from our manager, who spoke to Bob earlier on today.
A brilliant performance on Monday night. A friend who doesn't watch Wycombe very often said to me, you would not have known that team was bottom of the Championship.
No, it's nice to hear, and I agree. I think we turned it on, and I just want to ask the boys now to do that every week for me now, because we're going to need that to the end of the season. I want them to turn it on. I want them to believe they can compete against anyone, because they've just competed against one of the top teams in the country. All right, they brought the big boys on at the end to win the game, but we matched them at times as well, and I was really proud of the boys, and I'm hoping that everyone, like you say, as a neutral, could see that Wycombe are not just making up the numbers. We really want to compete, and I want to take that into Brentford on Saturday.
I think that we probably all have this stereotyped image after a game that possibly you get together, you managers, and have a glass of wine. Probably that doesn't happen anyway, particularly not now because of COVID. But did Jose have a chat to you after the match?
Yeah, we always do in normal times, and that still happens, so that's great. But unfortunately, I didn't get to sit down with him. We just had a few words exchanged. He told me he knew we would be tough, which is a great compliment. He said I knew I would have to do what I did, and it was great. It was really nice for somebody of that stature and somebody who I've got the utmost respect for to know what we're trying to do here. And I thought that he managed his game really well. But I also think that at times he probably did think. They were in for a right game, and that's all I want when people come to Wycombe. As long as they get a game, it's tough. It is very tough in the Championship, and we are that team that everyone looked at and went, "What the heck are they doing in the Championship?" And people are probably looking at us now, going, "No, that's Wycombe gone." I think that if they underestimate us, I think they've got a rude awakening coming, and that's what I'm hoping in the next 9 games. We've got some real tough ones coming up, but we've got some teams around us as well. And if we can take what we did on Monday into these games, I think we'll do well.
And Brentford, a side that we've obviously already played twice this season, and particularly in that second game at Adams Park, we held them and we played really well.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the way the boys have played in every game, never mind just the Brentford game. Even the Blackburn game, we learn our lesson, but I'm always proud. They always give me everything, and if I get it wrong, then I get it wrong, and they're gutted after the games. But when they do get it right on the pitch, they deserve all the glory. And against Cardiff and Preston in the Cup and the Sheffield Wednesday Birmingham games which we've won. We've deserved to win these games. We can beat teams at this level. Brentford will be very tough, but I know that at the end of the game I'll be proud of these boys again, and that's all I need. We miss the fans. We do miss the fans are a huge part of what we do here, and tactically as well as anything, as well as just bums on seats. But it is what it is. We've had this COVID situation as well, which hasn't helped. So again, we're just getting back to normal. But we're playing probably as a form team in the country, and it's going to be tough. But I know one thing: there won't be an ounce of energy left on that pitch at the end of the game on Saturday. And, the result will be the right result because we'll give everything. See where we go.
How's Joe Jacobson doing? Obviously, he came off in the first half during the game against Spurs.
Yeah, we're still in the assessment stage of Joe. So he's really hoping to play. He's hoping to be involved. Whether the medical team can get him round, I don't know. So he's got a groin issue, and hopefully we can get him back round in time. If not, we're looking in the transfer market with 4 days to go. I've got replacements in the team, although not a natural left foot, like we have in the past. So again, we're going to have to be creative. But no, Joe's obviously had a great season, and he's one of the most feared set piece takers in the league. And we've got to make sure that we when he does come back, he doesn't break down again, and that's big for us because he's our only natural left back. Although Jason McCarthy went out there and did really well against Gareth Bale of all people, so it was. It was a blow to lose him, but he'll be back pretty soon. I'm sure he's in contention for this weekend. If not, it'll be very soon after that.
And we're getting towards the stage of the year where you normally lose Bayo off to the Super Bowl. I'm assuming that's not happening this season.
That one game a year where he goes, no,
yeah.
He'll definitely be sticking around, and we're going to need him, But no, he's a big part of what we do still, and like I say, hopefully we can get to Brentford on Saturday with a full-ish squad, because we've got a couple still on the other end of the COVID stuff, and let's see what we can do. But I think the 17 unbeaten, which is a tough ask. But if anyone can do it, we can upset the form book more than most. Let's see what we can do.
I'm sure he's going to say apple cart then. They do upset the apple cart.
Well, he's quite right. If anyone's going to bring Brentford's run to a close, hopefully it's going to be us.
Really interesting as well to hear that there could be further arrivals before Monday's deadline.
Indeed, yes, and particularly with regards maybe to Joe Jacobson, and the fact that we played Brentford in a B-team game, which happened the day after the Spurs game. You would have thought that everyone would have fancied a rest, but no, actually we played Brentford in a B-team game, and there were a few trialists that day, including a trialist left back.
I like the way there was a trialist CB. I thought that was going to be me.
Yeah, yes, no, I don't think it was you. And also the trialist left back played the whole game as well, so maybe that was quite telling.
Yes, and obviously as well, there's obviously sort of permanent signings, but also the loan market as well. Gareth always done very well in.
Yes, indeed. I mean, look how well we've done in the loan market so far. With Dennis Ademran, the fact that we've now got Admiral up front, Josh Knight, obviously. So yes, maybe another loan signing as well. That would be good.
Really interesting to have that B team or practice game as well, especially, as you say, with the same opponents coming up on Saturday.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that was a bit of a surprise. A surprise that it was the day after the Spurs game, and also that it was the opponents that we're about to face. An interesting team. So it was David Stockdale, James Clark, who is the player that we signed from Chelsea, who is yet to make an appearance for us. Giles Phillips played, Anthony Stewart, Andre Burley, Alex Pattison, Dennis Ademran, Gareth McCleary, Alex Samuel and Scott Cashket played. Anis Mehmeti came on as a substitute. Alex Pattison, who got the winner, scoring a second-half penalty, giving us a 1-0 victory over Brentford B after Scott Cashket had been brought down in the box.
A lot of first-team names there as well.
Yeah, and exactly. That's what I thought. And possibly a bit of a surprise as well. So obviously Scott played, and he played in the night before. Gareth McCleary as well came on in the Spurs game. So very much, possibly just trying to get the team back to being used to playing, because obviously, it's been longer now than the 16 days, hasn't it, since the Preston North End game.
It'll be really interesting to see whether Monday night's game combined with that has really built a bit of confidence or perhaps will enable them to have a bit of momentum going into this game.
Really, really hope so. As I said earlier on, I think it was a great shame that actually we didn't then play a league game after that Preston North End performance, because that was so impressive. But I hope that the team can hang on to the fact that actually the performance on Monday night was equally as impressive, and just forget about the scoreline, because the scoreline was very harsh. And remember that actually we managed to hold Tottenham's Hotspur for 85 minutes, and just ignore the fact that actually in the last 8 minutes they managed to score 3 times.
And as we touched on earlier in the show, February could be such a key time in terms of the fixtures and hopefully the results.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you get the fact that if we're still struggling by the end of February, then things are looking pretty grim. But actually, if we have a decent February, then actually, we could be really looking forward to the spring, and actually staying in the Championship next season. Lots
of positivity, lots to look forward to. Do join us next week on the Wycombe Wanderers Show here on Wycombe Sound.